see the work that they're doing. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission was created by the Natural Gas Act of 1938, which regulates what the pipelines do. The local municipalities can't do concurrent studies. It's all basically exclusive to FERC to regulate what the pipeline, what Spectra does with the pipeline. So if the city were to pass another resolution, I would not recommend in that resolution doing anything that could hinder, because then the city could be held liable for preventing the work to be done. I don't think that's what they're saying. I don't think that's what that's saying. And that's well, it depends. It's going to depend on what the content would be. I know with regards to, there were some concerns about the application for the permit for blasting. I know it was obtained. It was not completed or filled out and submitted to the city as of yet. I don't know if it's going to be. There was an article that I read that said there was going to be no blasting within the city limits. I don't know that to be true or not.
Well, you don't even want it next to the city limits, because the blast sort of goes by its nature.
I understand that, but outside of the
directions,
outside of the city limits, the city of Peekskill really has no say in what happens in Cortland Manor and Buchanan, other places. So the city of Peekskill has no ability to prevent anything from happening in other municipalities.
So Cortland Manor could set off a bomb on our border, and it wouldn't.
It would affect the city, but the city can't do anything, has no power to prevent them from doing so. The city council can't say, we will not allow Cortland Manor to set off a bomb.
Well, let's get away from bombs. That was
probably not a good metaphor, right?
Well, to some, it's a perfect metaphor, I have to tell you.
I get it.
I think part of this has to do with, protecting. Mayor, you want to say so? Because you certainly said something today that I 100% agree with. And
what was that?
That, I know, it has to do with, wanting to really have any blasting permits come before the council so that we can protect our people.
I think that might explain why some residents got notices and others didn't, because I think the intended blast zone is somewhere in Cortland, and it's only reaching certain people in our city that need to get the notification within the footage.
I don't know. It was sort of unusual because some of them were like next door neighbors, so I can't figure that out. I don't understand blasting them.
There's not going to be any permit issue in the city of Peekskill. They've got to fill out the thing. They've got to come in with the who, what, when, and where, and the insurance requirements. And even then, I'm sure we can find some bureaucratic problems with it, and it's just not going to.
Well, I'm sure that the city will look at it fairly and make a determination based upon the information that's submitted.
Sure.
Absolutely.
The camera didn't pick up my wing. Of course, we do it fairly, but we're not going to do it.
But we also have to, I think we have a real responsibility, to protect our residents, our property, our infrastructure, and all the rest of the stuff that could be damaged by blasting from a company that personally I don't trust. So, and if you're listening out there, Spectra, this is me talking to you.
If there's a permit that's submitted, then the council will be notified.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's going to be submitted. I just have a hunch.
Did you take a look at the both of these resolutions, though? Are you saying that, in your opinion, these resolutions are not viable?
I am saying that there are portions of them that I would not recommend being put in a resolution considered by the council.
And which portions of those?
Well, particularly, like I said, anything pertaining to the delay of the process, because the city can't be liable for preventing this work, because then the city is going to be brought into a lawsuit for preventing whatever work is being done. If we want to provide encouragement for legal and peaceful pipeline activities, I have a problem with that line, that particular sentence, because I think that that's bringing the city involvement where the citizens can provide that assistance for peaceful anti-pipeline activities. But a lot of times, like you've seen in past weeks, there have been incidents where work has been prevented from the anti-pipeline activities. And that's a concern that I don't want to see the city involved with. That's one example.
Yeah, I didn't get the sense that anybody was really talking about that, that we're asking the Peekskill Police Department to go down and join the picket line. Mm-hmm. Is that how you're reading that?
No. But I mean, the citizens can participate in any kind of anti-pipeline activities if they choose to do so. What I don't want to see is the council to get involved in promoting that when the public can do it on their own, because then I don't want the city to be held liable for any actions on behalf of the city in that respect, because then the council is basically extending its arm out to people who would be perhaps acting not in the best interest of the city.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I think it comes back for me to, the fact that, and it was explained to me by the chief why our police were involved, sort of making sure the job, they were hired by Spectra to make sure that the job went along without a hitch, as I can see it. And it caused, of course you have people down there who are opposed to it and feel very passionate about it because they feel their lives are in jeopardy at some level and their property is in jeopardy. And now we're putting a resolution saying we're absolutely against this pipeline, and at the same time our law enforcement unit is down there sort of stepping between our own citizens and supporting the pipeline.
I don't know that they were supporting the pipeline. I mean, I don't know what was happening, but I don't know that you could state that the police were supporting the pipeline rather than doing their rep.
We didn't summon them.
Right, but you can't say that.
Right, but they weren't doing anything any differently than they would have done with a Verizon or any other private entity. They were just there to help keep the peace. So you have a choice. You're gonna pay them. You're gonna allow them to be put on somebody else's payroll, or you're going to end up paying for it anyway. So it's not unlike any other strike situation or any other protest situation, but the chief can answer that.
Right, so if there was a demonstration going on that impacted the Spectra project, we would be called. So we would have to respond and mitigate that situation, just much like the troopers had to do.
By how?
Well, that depends on the situation.
Okay.
Look, the goal is not to go there and arrest people, but, that can and sometimes does happen.
It's kind of like the beer fest. If they're going to have, 2,000 people drinking beer and getting rowdy, we make them pay for the police. Right. That doesn't mean we're supporting the beer people and want to arrest them.
No, we have
it's there to keep order.
We have very specific rules and regulations within the police department to deal with these kinds of things that specifically state you're not to get involved personally. You're not to.
I know, but that's like plans and all that. I mean, I don't want to hash out the whole thing.
But it's like going to a strike. I mean, if there's a strike, we don't take sides with the people on strike, but we may have to mitigate the situation.
Right, but the question is whether you would get hired by the company that they were striking against.
And we have. I mean,
really?
We passed that along. We've done that. We did that with Verizon. Probably about 2 or 3 years ago, they had a very high-profile strike that resulted in actual violence, and there was a need for the police, and they saw that, and they hired us to prevent anything from escalating as a preventative measure. And I think that, I'm not speaking for Spectra, but I think that's their philosophical approach, that they have the police on scene to prevent what is an emotional situation from becoming more and more emotionally charged that could result in violence or somebody getting injured. And I think that's the reasoning behind having us there as a proactive measure to deter people from
I hear what you're saying, but I was also there at that time, so I witnessed certain things. So not necessarily I didn't witness things with the Peekskill Police Department, but I did with the county police department, and I could see it was clear as a bell who was paying who.
I can't speak for them. I do know that Spectra has hired police departments. I know Buchanan is involved, Yorktown is involved, the county police, and us. So, I mean, that's pretty much the way it's gone.
Yeah.
But to make a difference between the Beer Fest and the pipeline, we have not passed a resolution saying we don't want the Beer Fest to come to Peekskill. In fact, we give them permits and we want them to come to Peekskill because it encourages tourism and encourages economic development, and the pipeline is somewhat
Right,
different.
but we do have a duty to protect all, and if they called, we'd have to go. We couldn't refuse.
All
You're
the
right.
more reason why we want the police there, and we want them to pay for it.
Absolutely.
Not us to pay for it, not the taxpayers.
Yeah, and just so you know, they not only pay for the police officer, they pay for the equipment. We charge them a rate for the car that's involved. I mean, this is not just,
There
dollar.
was that big, dust up that happened, and people were taking videotapes, and people were talking about, other more extreme measures and so forth, to get satisfaction on the situation. And, that's the kind of thing, if we're, as a city, that's my only
No,
point.
I understand.
Chief, if as a city, we're saying that we don't want this pipeline here, and yet the pipeline is hiring us to be there.
Protection.
But
Yeah.
I think what he's saying, I mean, the police aren't necessarily, they're not supporting it, and we would all like to see everybody just take that role of, stepping up and being the hero. But my only concern with that is if they did that, then who would they call after?
Mm-hmm.
I think with our police being there, if they have to be there to, calm it down, I think I'd rather see him there than seeing, some higher authorities, county police and state troopers and whoever else they may have to pull in. So,
Or private security hired by
or private, but
a contractor.
it is, and I'm just learning about this too, so I'm just really understanding
Well,
it. But in my heart, I don't think that, Johansson at least, I don't think that they're really supporting it. I think I'm understanding that it is kind of a position that he has to play.
All right.
But it is, we can still, the fight isn't over.
Yeah.
We can still do what we can. If
That's
I have
right.
to stand in front of Johansson like I'm not moving, we can do that. But
I just remembered it. He's on our side.
But I just don't want to make it seem. I believe him. I don't think that he's really supporting me.
I believe him too. I believe that I'm not challenging him. There are,
No, I understand.
we've had
I
a long
understand.
conversation
Sure, I
about
understand.
this. But I do think that it makes it sort of a little bit muddy. And I remember that there was a problem, and it happened outside of Peekskill, and there were other issues with our police, so just saying. Well, so where are we leaving this now?
Well, I can draft something for your consideration for next week.
Can you take a look at that other one that I sent you as
I
well?
printed it out.
Yeah.
I have it, and I'll draft something, and I'll submit it for your consideration, and you can make comments and
Okay.
anything else.
Thank you.
You're
very
welcome.
much. I realize it's a dicey stuff.
Yeah, you can't go in.
Right. Thank you. The next item is, there was an application for the St. Patrick's Day Parade that was submitted to the clerk's office.